And what I'm going to use for now is just the guide is some general tips. And one of the things I want to make really, really clear is you're going to get different information, sometimes conflicting information from different individuals. And that's honestly okay because different fields are going to have different preferences. And then honestly, as time changes, different things are more valued on something like a resume in society. And as we have seen paper resumes transition to more online based or uploaded, and even things like our position statements, so unique other properties, you got to keep that in mind. So just because you heard it one place doesn't mean that it's fact. So I'm going to give you some simple basic stuff to go with, and another presentation or another video is going to go over a few different examples. One is going to focus more on content, the other a little bit more on strengths and on the aesthetic of the resume. So basically this is what a resume is, and again, this is a content focused resume. That's what I'm starting with here. It's a one-stop shop, and it's a place where an employer can see really what you have to offer. And there's lots of different things as they put on your certifications, education, your work experience, just things you're involved in. If you have any honors or rewards, you don't want to put those on there, and then references as well. And depending on what type of job market you're in an industry, they're going to value different things on this list in different ways. So if you are applying to grad school and you need to upload a resume, they're going to want to see your education first. If you are applying to a type of position that does not require a degree, you may want to have a version of your resume that might emphasize your work experience over education. So there's a few different types of resumes. We have a chronological resume, and keep in mind it's always reverse chronological order. It's the easiest to write and really the most common that we see. We see a functional resume. So I'm going to have an example again in the next video that really just shows some categories of strengths, qualities, and some work experience. This is a good type if you don't have a huge work history, or if it's scattered, or if you had some major gaps. And then the third type is really what we see most often, and it's a combination. So it uses both the idea of having themed categories of what you've done, but it is presented in reverse chronological order. So a few things to start with. You're going to want some sort of heading. Some people call it letterhead. It's essentially how to get a hold of you. And ideally, if you have another page on the resume, a lot of people think it has to just be one side. It's honestly fine to do a front and back. Like if you were to actually print it as one piece of paper, that's fine. And most resumes these days are going to be uploaded. And regardless if it's one front or a front and a back, people are going to really want to focus on what's on the top third of that resume anyways. So it just kind of depends how long you want to make it. Some people have a short version and a long version. Regardless, if you have more than one page, this heading and letterhead, at least some kind of identifier should be on all pages, so people know if something is flipped to the other side or if pages get separated, who it is. A few things to put about your education. I'm going to list the do's here. So put the actual degree title. So say Bachelor of Science, that's for most of you. Don't leave out the year or the expected graduation year. You want to put that in. That is sometimes a limiter to some people, but you do want to put when that degree happened. If it's in progress, just put expected graduation date. If you think including the major or minor you had will help you, include it. If it doesn't really matter, don't worry about it. Don't put it in there. GPA is the same thing. Honestly, the only place, in my opinion, where GPA has been really important is when you're applying to graduate school. So I would not include GPA unless you had a 4.0 or 3.8, 3.9. It's really not going to help you in any sort of job situation. If you do not have your bachelor's degree yet, you can include your associate's degree if you have it. If you already have gotten your bachelor's degree, take the associate's degree off unless it's in a unique skill or trade area. And then if you don't have a lot of experience, it could be okay to put some coursework. Don't put the number like PHED 343, put the actual title of the course, and honestly, only if it's unique. Everybody's going to be taking exercise physiology and anatomy and phys and strength and conditioning classes. If there's something really special that you took that you think sets you apart, then it could be okay to include it if you just need to fill in some more space. And definitely include the state and the city of the university because not everyone knows where everything is. Some don'ts over here. Actually put the degree that you earned. So again, Bachelor of Science. If you want to put the major, it's fine, but that's it. Common coursework, don't put it in, only if it's unique or special. Don't put high school in. Since you're already in college, it's assumed, and you're putting university, even if it's in progress, it's assuming you graduated high school. So unless you are not in college, don't put high school. And again, GPA, if you don't think the people you're going to be applying to are going to care about GPA, and again, like I said, maybe if it's super, super high to show how you balance a high academics, and if you worked, 40 hours a week while you're in school, yeah, fine. Otherwise, no one's going to care about it. Sorry. Certifications. We got some do's and some don'ts. So make sure you put who the actual certifying body is. So if you have a CSCS, yeah, most people in the industry know what that is, but actually write out National Strength and Conditioning Association. It's okay if you put NSCA in parentheses after that, and then you're going to write out word for word the actual full name of the certification. So you may have to actually go back to that certifying body to double check how they want you to name it, and there might be some really unique specific ways that they want that named. So again, abbreviation can come later in parentheses. If it's not current, it should not even be on your resume at all. You don't have to put the year that you got it. If it's current, it's on there, you currently have it. Don't list just the abbreviation. If there's certain levels, so some certifications have a level 1 or level 2 or beginner or advanced, don't forget to put that. You need to identify those because especially if that's someone who knows and is familiar with that certification and you don't put the levels onto it, it's going to make you look like you don't know what you're talking about. And then if you have nothing else, you should be coming out of this degree with at least Red Cross First Aid and CPR and AED, so minimally at least put that. And again, just like any other area on the resume, don't include it as a heading or a theme unless you actually have a certification. Some work experience. We have some do's and don'ts. Include the work that's related to the job that you want. Don't include non-physical activity professional work unless you had a role that had transferable skills or strengths like management, or if you had to manage a budget, or if you had to hire and work on HR types of situations. If you worked in retail and you were just a floor retailer, I don't know, there's skills in other places on a resume where you can put your skills and strengths. And do not put non-relevant to the job work experience on the resume unless it's all you currently have. When you are listing out the resume, make sure you include your title that you held, the location, city, state, the just years you worked there. You don't have to put, certain dates like February 17th through March 18th. Just put the years. And then 2 to 3 bullets with action verbs, starting, bulleted statements of what you actually did when you were there. Some other ideas you could have as sections or themes: related work experience. So this is where you could put your non-physically active experience. Again, if the skills are transferable, sometimes people call this coaching experience section. If you're different or you want to have separate areas. If you have been involved in any type of professional organizations, whether it was in college or outside of the university, that could be a separate section if you felt your engagement merited it. So you would want to list the name, the organization, the years you were a part of it, and then again, action verb bullets, but what you actually did. So let's say I'm an NSCA member, but I don't really do anything. I'm not on any committees. I don't subscribe to their journals. I'm just paying money. I'd probably not include it unless you actually had some involvement, because in an interview and they ask you, what did you do? And you have nothing to say, it doesn't look the best. Some other possible sections you could have are listed here. So if you have served in the military, if you have volunteer work or any type of service to the profession, any awards and honors, honestly only include high school if it was a major, like if you were valedictorian, if you had a major athletic achievement, that would include like winning state. It doesn't mean like necessarily all conference. A lot of people in our profession did sports in high school and are going to have those same things. So unless it's college, I would keep all high school things off. If you got any scholarships at the university, major of the year, that kind of stuff, for now, when you're so new out of college and you're still looking for things to put into the resume, those could be appropriate. And then technical proficiencies. This is something you may gain a little bit more of this as you intern, because the site you'll be at is going to have specific softwares that they're going to be using. But if it's any type of productivity software, so if you are a whiz with Google's productivity apps, if there's certain apps that you use regularly, if you are able to function really well with social media, doing a professional marketing campaign, if you have photography experience, literally anything that you, if someone asked you and paid you to do a job, you would be able to do it professionally and well, you could include it. A little tip with these subsections or themed areas, only include a new section if you have at least 2 items in each section. Then references. Put these on a separate page. You should have about 3 to 4. And don't say references available upon request, because it's just another step for the employer to have to do to find out information from you, where they're not going to want to do that because they have a million other applications to look at. So make it easy on them to want to hire you. The references you have should match the work experience you have. So, and also have a variety. So I would say if you're recently out of college, 1 faculty member is fine. If they're all faculty members, that's a problem, because it shows you have no one who really knows your real world work experience. I would say at least 1 former boss or employer, and essentially people who can speak to your strengths. Try not to have a personal reference, like especially a family member or partner. And then with their references, please include their full name, their actual title, the location that they're at, their address, their phone, especially phone and email are the 2 big ones. Address, at minimal, you could have city, state, or country if you needed to, but most references are going to be through phone call or through email. A link to evaluate you will be sent. The objective. This is highly disputed. It's optional. Traditionally, it basically says your intent with the resume. So I want to obtain a position, dynamic fitness and health related. I'm not a big fan of it, because of course you're trying to obtain a position. That's why you're applying for this job. And honestly, it's my opinion, it can be a waste of space, because they want to see what you're going to bring to the job as opposed to what you want. They want to see what you can deliver to them. So I'm more on the line of, this is where you could type out your own personal brand statement or your position or power statement. So here's an example, personal profile or position statement. So highly energetic, state license, here's it for a PE teacher, state license, K-12 physical educator, knowledgeable in these areas. So it kind of in a nutshell tells what this person is about. Here's a few other tips. Everything needs to be consistent. Your font sizes, headings, bullets, italics, dates, be as nitpicky as possible. Find somebody else smarter than you to review it and to edit it, to proofread it. Save it as a PDF. Do not send it as a Word document. And then title it with your full name. So here's the example, Buddy T. Elf resume. Have a faculty member. Again, the EMU Career Development Center is a really great place to also proofread it. And then also make sure you watch how much space you have on it. Don't use giant fonts just to cover up white space, but don't pack it too full of content and information. And then have a few copies professionally printed. Every once in a while, you may want to have a hard copy handy. And so make sure it's not on cheap paper, but most often it's something you're going to be uploading. So that's why a PDF appropriately titled is best. Make sure your email is a professional email. So I recommend do not use your Emish, and do not use an old Yahoo or something like that. Use Gmail or something else that's more professional. And also just get used to managing multiple email addresses on your cell phone, because you got to check more than just Eastern email basically while you're in your final year. An email signature is a great idea to have in this email. So again, your name, a full title, things that you do, way to get in contact with you. And again, lots of places on one main place on campus to get information, University Advising and Career Development Center. If you go to their website, it's UACDC, and you can set up an appointment. Someone can look at